So Rita and James, who'd have guessed a Labor government comes into power and the boats start re-arriving? Here they come, open the floodgates. Now listen me tell you, you're either strong on borders or you're weak on borders. Guess what? Labor are always weak on borders. We will always see boat arrivals because in their heart and soul, that's what they want, Rita.
It is. They'll say all the right things before an election. They'll tell us how strong they are on borders, how they're completely on board with these policies. But we know where they stand. You know, it's not in their DNA. It's not in their ideological makeup. And it's no coincidence that when Labor are in power, this becomes an issue. And
second boatload we've had arrive.
We've now had a second boatload come from Indonesia. The arrivals from places like Pakistan paying around $8,000 to people smugglers to get here. So that trade looks like it's being reignited again. And this is a government that's just inept. It cannot deal with this issue. We've seen this week further revelations about the mishandling of the release of hardened criminals from immigration detention. We're talking about murderers, rapists, serious criminals. And they're just inept. They cannot deal with these issues because they don't really believe in it. This is not something they care about.
So, James, I wanted to make the point that one wag on Twitter said, I wonder if they got a welcome to country when they arrived up in northern WA there. But this is the point. It's ideological.
I mean, look, it is ideological, and it actually goes a lot deeper than just this one particular boat arrival. You know, let's remember, we're going to talk about him a little bit later in the program, but Andrew Giles, the immigration minister, the thing that inspired him to get into politics, and he's the immigration minister, was being a legal advocate for the arrivals on the Tampa in 2001. So we've come full circle. You'll remember that Christina Keneally, who almost won the seat of Fowler in Western Sydney and would have been the Home Affairs Minister in an Albanese government, she was against mandatory detention and had all sorts of meetings with refugee groups. You know, but the other thing, too, is that in Labor's DNA is not just about the refugees, but it's also about the big Australia massive migration program, which is really bizarre to me because for Labor, you would think that policies that drive down wages and drive the price of housing up would be totally, you know, not something that they would want to do for their constituency.
Labor forgot the worker decades ago.
This is it. But I think that this migration issue, Rod and Rita, is exactly where Peter Dutton needs to be because this ties into so many things that people care about. Not just borders, but migration, the size of Australia, what our cities look like, density, many other issues we saw before in Dunkley. There's even fights where the Labor candidate in Dunkley is talking about, you know, we don't need really big towers. This is a big political issue. Labor is just sitting there waiting to be wedged if Peter Dutton decides to go and grab this issue and run it hard on all of the different things it has implications for.
We've already seen, Rita, this ridiculous comment from the Prime Minister yesterday, or on the weekend rather, when he was asked about the fact that these new boat arrivals had been reported. Just have a listen to this extraordinary excuse.
Prime Minister, we're hearing that an asylum seeker boat has arrived off to the Western Australian coastline. Do you know anything about that?
I've been travelling in the car, so I'm not. I haven't been advised about that.
I've been travelling in the car. I'm sorry, the mobile phone was invented, what 30 years ago?
Sorry.
They were in, before that, for 20 years.
I think he might have a radio telephone in there. I don't
Exactly.
know.
I'm in a car, so I can't run the country, folks. We've got the biggest country, you know, one of the biggest countries on the planet, and you would hope you would spend a lot of time in the car. Obviously, he's so used to being in aeroplanes up the pointy end that he's forgotten how to travel in a car and use a mobile.
But can we not also note here that it's not like you and me travelling in a car, and even if you and I were travelling in a car, we probably would have taken a phone call, but he's got a driver. He's in the back seat. So being in a car is actually a perfect place to be updated on precisely what has happened. The fact that we've got, after years of not this being an issue, this becoming an issue again. I mean, it is an astonishing comment from a Prime Minister, almost as good as his Immigration Minister, Giles, asking Peter Dutton for the phone number or contact details of the grieving family member who he's failed to contact despite assuring us that he would contact.
In Albo's defence, he may have been with Vodafone.
Very good, very good. Well, let's have a look. Peter Dutton responded to that extraordinary bit of nonsense from the Prime Minister. Here we go.
I think there are very significant issues when the Prime Minister of our country is not even aware, hasn't received any briefing, doesn't have the protections put in place with surveillance mechanisms, etc., to pick up a boat that arrives on our shores. Then it demonstrates that this government has lost control of our borders.